and how this came about?
Well, you know, military comes to power against the will of the people. If the military succeeds, it's a revolution, and every other thing derives legitimacy from the fact of that success. But if the military men fail, it becomes a treason, and they pay with their lives. So the very moment Muhammadu Buhari, Babangida, Sani Abacha, and to some extent Abdul Salami Abubakar, the moment they took over power, not with the consent of the people, but by the strength of the barrel of the gun, they had become the new source of power, or what the German philosopher called the Grundmann. It is on that basis that they gave us that constitution. They didn't consult you. They had a conference, all right, they called all kinds of people, but that did not make the constitution. It was the signature of Abdul Salami Abubakar that said, we the people have decided that from May 29, 1999, this is the constitution that will govern us.
And that does not make it invalid, right?
No, 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 no. It makes it legitimate before the world. Or rather, it makes it legal before the world. In the eyes of the people and the agitators, it is still legal, but they question the legitimacy.
Do you think that assuming that constitution was subjected to referendum, it would have stood?
It will stand whether subjected to referendum or not, but whether the people will agree with everything is another thing. And besides, the military have this fear of the people, which is why they do everything they do among themselves. What is the military Armed Forces Ruling Council? 12 men. Remember Babangida, one day after a meeting with the Armed Forces Ruling Council, they opposed certain laws he was trying to bring out. When he came out to address the press, he announced the Armed Forces Ruling Council had been dissolved. In other words, he had told them, I am the law. Whatever I say is the law. Which was why June 12th was just annulled. Up till now, they keep telling us all kinds of stories. But it was annulled.
Just quickly, you know, you were actually trying to make a point with the National Assembly when I interrupted your thoughts. You were saying that the National Assembly will refuse to be a rubber-stamped National Assembly, and I was trying to, you know, get out from you what you thought might become of it if whatever it is we're proposing might be too radical for, at least for the confines of whatever it is that they usually discuss. If it's too radical, what do you think might become of, you know, the discussions within the ambit of the National Assembly?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't expect a senator or an honorable member to get up and say, my people must leave Nigeria. Because this is where he is in power. So those unwritten rules are there. Even Governor Liu will say, oh, the North won't mind if they say, but he will not say the North will leave. No matter what you do, if you are part of the constitutional authority, you watch your language. But if, for instance, I go to that national conference, I can get up there and tell you it's either this or that. How they manage my submission is another thing, which is why I gave you the example of the Soko man. That you don't toy with him.
You know, we went into referendum now a moment ago, and the outcome, you know, Chamberlain was also asking, can it be subjected to a referendum? Because when you say whichever way it stands, we're looking at now specifically the outcome of this conference. When we finally are done with talking and we say this is the way it should go, how do we bring it to the fore? Must we also have a referendum?
Okay,
like the Somalians?
The advisory committee may decide that after the conference we subject it to a referendum. At this moment, it's still within the confines of the president's jurisdiction to consult the people. How he does that is his own business. But if you want it to become law, you must go to the National Assembly. The president has no power to make law.
Now, you've given the example, sorry to interrupt you there, you've given the example of the Isoko man. We were saying that we've gathered every group, moderate, belligerent, you know, hot-tempered, cool-tempered, we've managed to reach an agreement. I mean, the person who is moderating the conference has done a very wonderful job. We now have an agreement as the decision of all the parties involved in this discussion. You're saying that we'll still have to subject it to further discussion again within the chambers of the National Assembly, because essentially that is what they're going to do if they're going to refuse to be a rubber stamp legislature. We're saying that, are you sure that they will not, you know, tamper with some things that might be radical? Let's take, for instance, we've seen what's happening with the PIB. It would seem that there is plenty of politicking with it, and they cannot even agree on certain things. You can see the divide already there. The North is saying, no, we can't have certain things. The South is saying, we must have certain things. And you know that it is delicate, so to speak. How do you think that decisions, far-reaching decisions, might be handled within the confines of the National Assembly?
It depends on the expertise of Mr. President and his ability to sell it to the National Assembly. 2, it depends on how far the members of the National Assembly, not just National Assembly, even the states, because the states House of Assembly must also come in for there to be an amendment of the Constitution. So if they want to be statesmen, this is where they will say, okay, let us now accept whatever has been decided by the people, hook, line, and sinker. But the politicians I know will never give up that power.
So don't you think that will take us back to square one?
Yes, but it is first step. When we get there, we can still mount the kind of pressure we can get to until we get them to do what we want them to do. But it is only them and no other person that can effect that change. It's an uncomfortable truth, but that is the truth, that only the National Assembly can effect that change in the Constitution. If you like, do all referendums, 1 million, that will not work.
Mr. Hazariki, do you think that this Constitution can ever be set aside? Assuming we were to decide that we wanted a brand new Constitution, what would be the process as a people?
The first process is that Mr. President leaves office. Governors, everybody will go.
Why would they have to?
That's a revolution.
But is that the only way?
No, the Constitution talks of how to amend the Constitution. So where will you go to get your own power to set it aside? You must refer to that Constitution in order to do this thing you want to do. So you dump the Constitution. So what is left?
We had a guest here yesterday who spoke about, you know, change sometimes comes violent. He made it very clear that
that's revolution.
No, he made it very clear that he wasn't talking about bloodshed, but that violence will be done to the Constitution as it stands. If you want a brand new Constitution, it means that certain things will not be followed here, which is in total violation of that was the violence he was referring to.
But will be agreed by the people.
Exactly, but will be agreed by the people. Do you think that there is a room for that in law?
In Uganda, Milton Obote, as a civilian president, set aside some portions of the Constitution. And some people challenged it in court. The chief judge of Uganda there was Udoma. And his ruling still the standard that if he, the president, tampers with the Constitution, the people agree, that becomes a revolution. So what the against was advocating is a revolution. It doesn't have to be violent. But
is it possible?
A fundamental change.
Is it possible?
For instance, if the president wakes up tomorrow and says, I have sacked the National Assembly, and he uses soldiers to go and effect it, and then we accept it, that is a revolution. But where we do not accept it, the court is there to strike it down.
So you're saying that a revolution essentially too need not be bloody?
No.
Because every time when we mention things like violence, a revolution, we always have to clarify that we're not talking about bloodshed.
A bloody revolution. But it's not always going to be a bloody revolution. It's a revolution because it has affected a fundamental change. For instance, you have all these discussions. One day you go there, what the National Assembly will do is to say, we hereby subject ourselves to that. It's a revolution.
But isn't that what we seek? Because everybody who speaks every now and again at this conference, not even a national dialogue, at whatever conference it is, I mean, countless times we've heard of even current leaders saying that what we need is a revolution. Isn't that what we seek?
Well, no ruler will ask for a revolution, because that will amount to changing the existing legal order. Which is why the National Assembly will look at you and wonder what you're doing. If it is not a sovereign conference, whenever you finish, you bring to them. If it's a sovereign conference, it becomes law in itself.
So they don't need to fret. I mean, whatever it is they're going to discuss, if it's going to come back here, well, discuss all you want. It's going to come back here. We will do what we want to do with it. Is that
the truth? Many people attacked him, but that is the truth.
There's no way around it.
That after the discussion, to have a real effect, you must go to the National Assembly.
Some people have also said that they see a role for the National Assembly. We've seen some of your colleagues who say that they see a role for the National Assembly, but that it's not for the discussion. They want the National Assembly to provide a legal framework for the discussion to be able to take place. Do you think that
Very simple. They can make a National Conference Act, giving you immunity, for instance. Whatever you say there is immune. But for now...
And also saying that whatever is discussed at the end of the day goes to referendum, not to the National Assembly.
That will amount to amending the Constitution, if you ever go that far.
But wait, we've seen...
An act, sorry Chamberlain, yes. An act will not cover that.
No, an act cannot give the power to the people to amend the Constitution. It's only the Constitution that will say the process of amendment is hereby changed. That for an amendment to be read, it must be done by the people through a referendum. An
act cannot also give the power to the people to, you know, make a new constitution. I mean, not to amend the current constitution, but make a new one.
No, an act is inferior to the Constitution. And if it is not in tandem with the words of the Constitution, it becomes null and void. This is why, at the end of the day, you must go back to what the Constitution says. How is the Constitution going to be amended? Not how we think or how we want it.
What happens then? Because we've seen cases where the National Assembly amends or alters some part of the Constitution, and then the people cry out and say, no, this is not what we said it was going to be. So what happens in a scenario where they say, well, no, we're not ready for this conference, it won't go on, and the people say, no, we want it?
You go to court. You go and challenge what has been done by the National Assembly in court. Remember the amendments. I think we have already done 2 amendments right now. The last one, the only argument was whether the president must sign it for it to become law. National Assembly said the words of the Constitution is there. You say, well, for whatever it is, sign. It may even be superfluous, but sign.
What do we make of the doctrine of necessity?
Doctrine of necessity arises where there is no provision for a situation, which was what happened when Yaradua was sick. There
is no provision for the situation of the making of a new constitution. What do we
do? The Constitution is very, very clear on what will happen. The same Constitution says if you ever come to power or attempt to come to power in any manner not provided for in this Constitution, you have committed a treason.
All right, that's all we have to let it go. But wait a minute, personally, what's your personal view about the goings-on in the National Assembly? Because they've invited, they want to clear the air about this aviation armored cars bought for the office of the minister or for the minister.
Well, my advice to them is whatever you're doing, be open. The people want to know what is going on. Your opinion is not important. If there is corruption, state the facts of the corruption.
Your opinion? Or
my opinion,
recommendation?
You're asking me what is my... Okay, so now I'm giving you my own views. My recommendation to them is a fact-finding committee. Leave sentiments, leave politics, state the facts. If it is corrupt act, state the corruption. If it is failure of leadership, state the failure of leadership. Whatever it is, people are watching. They have oversight function, so it's their job. President also has his own committee. He has also the right to look into what is going on. So either way, they are within the ambience of their power.
Thank you for coming this morning. Chief Godi Wazirike is the president of Akai Kenga. We're back in just a moment. Please join us again.
Thank you.